United States did a mineral deal with Ukraine and they are going to get their money back for all these years supporting Ukraine. But what are we expected to get in return?
We're not deal makers like Trump. I mean, Europe has given 170 billion euros so far in aid to Ukraine, and the US was just about 150 billion euros.
So we gave more than the US.
More than the US. And now Zelensky sold out 50% of all the natural resources of his country to the United States. And Donald Trump has said he expects to get some $300 billion in the long run.
So they are going to make a profit.
That's what it looks like. And what I find remarkable is after Trump took power, the US has cut down to zero every military aid, every financial aid. And actually, he expects more money back than he actually has ever given. And Europe has basically stepped in, has paid what previously the US had paid. And now the US is selling weaponry to European Union member states and give them to Ukraine. So this is again a profitable deal for the US.
And this is one part of the story, but all these sanctions and all this stuff, we are hurting ourselves in the process because we are losing all this trade that we had, the gas and all this.
We just yesterday, we decided to cut entirely any gas supplies from Russia forever, regardless of what happens in Ukraine, which is completely crazy.
And also, we've been supporting Ukraine for all these years as Europe and the United States together. And every day, Ukraine is losing land.
But this can still drag on for years. And we tell Mr. Zelensky, or you can rely on us however long it takes. We will support you and you decide when this war is over.
They say in the end of the war, we Europeans, we are going to rebuild Ukraine without getting money.
And the US reap the benefits, reap the profits.
Okay, old man, who are you?
Well, my name is Thomas Geisel.
Tell us more.
Well, I'm a member of parliament, member of the European Parliament for Bündnis Sahra Wagenknecht. It's my first term, obviously. I was mayor of Düsseldorf before that, between 2014 and 2020. And before that,
what city you were mayor of?
City of Düsseldorf,
Düsseldorf.
Which is the capital.
A city in the capital?
It's the capital of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia.
Okay.
It's
from
got
Germany.
some,
And you are from the BSW group.
From the BSW group.
That is the famous party that almost made it in the parliamentary
election.
In the
Bundestag, yes. We missed it by 10,000 votes.
4.9.8.
Yeah. That's incredible. That was very, very unfortunate.
Okay, tell us a bit. So that you were mayor, now you are a member of the European Parliament.
Yes.
Anything else that we need to know about you that we...
Well, I haven't always been a politician. I used to work in the energy industry for almost 20 years. And so I'm not a rookie in politics, but I like it and I learn every day something new.
And for me to tell you guys, the BSW members of the European Parliament, I love them a lot. And
this is good.
And you as well, everyone everyone from the BSW. And you wanted to come here today and speak about a very important topic. That's why we are going to speak about a single topic today. So I allow you to.
Well, I
agree with what you're saying. So that's why I wanted to give you the microphone to speak loud and clear to the people here in Brussels.
Thank you very much. Now, I looked into...
And not only in Brussels, everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world, hopefully, yeah. Well, what I did, I looked, or my assistants looked into this contract that was concluded by the end of April between the US government and the government of Ukraine. And I think this is a very interesting contract because it provides for a joint venture between the US and Ukraine to be concluded. And the purpose of the joint venture is to basically develop big infrastructure projects and also participate in production of natural resources for Ukraine. And the joint venture gets 50% of all the revenue that Ukraine gets from licenses, from product sharing agreements concerning its natural resources. So it's a great business for the US. And Donald Trump has said, with this joint venture, he expects to get some $300 billion in the long run, sort of refunded to the U.S. I mean, for the money he gave to Ukraine in this war effort, which, according to the numbers that we have, was just about 115 billion euros or $1 billion, essentially. So it seems to me that
they are going to make a profit.
That's what it looks like. I mean, Trump says, I want my money back, and he expects more money back than he actually has ever given. And, it seems to me that for him, this war is just a big deal, a big business, and a very profitable one. And what I find remarkable is, when you think that Europe has, after Trump took power, Europe has basically stepped in for the US. I mean, the US has basically cut down to zero every military aid, every financial aid. Europe has basically stepped in, has basically paid what previously the US had paid. And now Ukraine makes a deal with the US that basically sells out the country to the US. And it turns out that Europe eventually pays for the whole thing, and the US reap the benefits, reap the profits. And I think this is something that we should think about in Europe, whether this is sort of a fair division of labor, if I put it this way.
Okay, so to summarize, this is the famous mineral deal that was the US, that Zelensky signed with the President of the United States.
With the ministers, but anyways.
It was talked a lot in the media for a long time, and this was finally signed. And like you say that the United States got kind of with this deal and will get more money that they gave in Ukraine on the long run.
This is what Trump has said. I mean, whether it eventually turns out this way, I don't know. But what I found surprising is that it was mentioned in the media in Europe. I guess nobody really mentioned the fact, that Europe stepped in for the US at the same time the US made a deal, which provided significant benefits for the US. And basically Zelensky sold out, big infrastructure projects and the natural resources of his country, at least in part, to the United States. And as I said, what I would expect, particularly for Europe, as we are providing so much aid to Ukraine, that we can expect a fair partnership. And after this deal, this doesn't look very fair to me.
So let's dive into the partner. So you spoke a bit about the details of the United States deal. Let's talk a bit about the details of the European deal. What are the details of the European deal? So how much money we gave so far? What are we expected to get in return?
Well, that's very difficult. According to the numbers that have been published, Europe has given, some 160, 170 billion euros so far in aid to Ukraine.
So we gave more than the
More
US.
than the US. And of course, a lot more money has already been committed. Think about, the other day, the German defense minister was in the US. They made a deal. The US is selling weaponry to Germany or to European Union member states, and they pay them to the US and give them to Ukraine. So this is, again, a profitable deal for the US and something where, European
with
member
NATO,
states.
You are there.
It's not just NATO, it's also member states of the EU. It is just sort of the scheme that Trump apparently has said, I'm not going to pay anymore for anything. I make, fighter jets and so on and so forth, make them available, but they're being paid by Europe and they're being forwarded to Ukraine. It's a big business, it seems to me, for the US, and it's a big money drain for Europe. And when you look of course, we have promised a lot to Ukraine. We have also promised the membership in the European Union. We have committed.
In the past, also, we promised the membership to NATO.
NATO, that was also. This looks less likely, particularly because the US apparently are very much opposed to that. But what I find interesting is that Europe, we pay. We tell Mr. Zelensky, you can trust or you can rely on us. However long it takes, however much it takes, we will support you, and you decide how, when this war is over. And I think this is just a very loop-sided arrangement. I think at least what Europe should do is we should take care to find a peaceful solution to this war. I mean, to end this, this situation where the U.S. makes big business, Europe pays, and the war drags on and costs thousands of lives, and causes this huge destruction and all this terrible things in Ukraine.
So, okay, talk a bit more about your suggestion. So you're offering diplomacy, like let's start to push diplomacy so we solve this conflict. What is your suggestion? What we should do as Europeans?
Europe should do diplomacy not just with a checkbook, but also taking responsibility for peace in Europe. And, we can no longer, it seems, rely on the US. For them, as I said, it's mostly a big business, this war. We should, in our own interest, do whatever we can to end this war. And the worst thing is, if the situation drags on, it costs more and more lives. It destroys the country more and more. It's a tremendous money drain, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, as it looks. So we have to take the initiative.
And also, it's important to see the realities in the battlefield, that we've been supporting Ukraine for all these years as Europe and the United States together. And every day, the line Ukraine is losing land.
The Ukraine is slowly but gradually losing. But this is one reason, this can still drag on for months, for years, and this cannot be the solution.
And they say in the end of the war, it's a lot more casualties closer to the end of the war. So I don't know if we're approaching close to the end of the war, but we need to avoid the big hit that is closer to the. Okay, so
what I would suggest is, I think this contract should be a wake-up call for Europe. It should be a wake-up call, that it cannot be that we pay on and on, that we do not take the responsibility to end this war and in the long run also to establish a normal or, at least sort of workable relationship with Russia. What we're doing in the moment, we're basically we're destroying all bridges with Russia. We're basically making the trenches deeper and deeper, and there's no, as I said, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and this needs to change. And
we, with the sanctions, it seems that they don't work. We are isolating ourselves.
And we're hurting ourselves.
It's not only the mineral, this is one part of the story, but all these sanctions and all this stuff, it seems counterproductive. We're pushing Russia to have allies like India and China and all this stuff.
Exactly.
And we are hurting ourselves in the process because we are losing all this trade that we had, the gas and all these natural resources that we had, deals and all this stuff. So it's a lot of dimensions. But okay, just because we support to start diplomacy and to try to solve but the other people will tell you we need to stop Russia because what's your answer to this? I'm here as a podcaster to challenge you. Yeah. So Russia is very powerful. It's a threat to Europe possibly. What is your answer to this? That's why they want to keep supporting Ukraine. So they make Russia a lot weaker.
Whether they're a threat to Europe, I don't know. This is sort of the narrative today. I do not quite see what would be their interest to, I don't know, some people would say to attack Poland, to attack eventually, to stand close to Germany. I think this is clearly not in the interest of Russia. Russia has some trouble to keeping their own empire together. I guess Russia felt, of course, more and more threatened by NATO coming closer and closer to Russia's border. And with the admission of the Baltic states, NATO has turned into a defense alliance against Russia again. I mean, this was very different from the ideas one had after the fall of the Iron Curtain back in the 1990s. And so I think, we have to be aware that there are legitimate security interests of Russia which need to be addressed. I do not believe the story that Russia is inherently sort of, aggressive and revisionary and imperialistic and so on and so forth. As I said, I think they have enough trouble keeping their own country together, which is a challenge. It's a huge country. And of course, there's a lot of history we do share with Russia. We're in many ways complementary with Russia. When I look at the huge natural resources that Russia has, and I think it is in the interest of Europe not only to end this war in Europe, which is extremely urgent to do, but also in the long run to come to terms and to reasonable terms to establish reasonable relationship with Russia again. If I've always said if Europe, the European Union, sees its greatest enemy in Russia, which is the largest country in Europe, I guess Europe is marginalizing itself. Europe won't play a role in geopolitics if Europe is just obsessed with its sort of inner European issues, And so it is clearly in the interest of Europe to establish a new policy vis-a-vis Russia. And the first thing is, end this war in Ukraine and find a solution and take the initiative, take the responsibility for it.
Very complicated topic. A lot of people is very divisive, and you take a lot of heat for this stance that you have, or no, from the people.
It is a very divisive issue. I think one should look,
especially in the European Parliament here.
It is clearly.
We are labeled because we have this position as pro-Russians, as puppet of Putin, and all this stuff. And it's like every text that we vote, almost every text that we vote in the European Parliament has something against Russia. Like this is Europe is obsessed with putting Russia as the devil, So we say, okay.
I think you put it bluntly, but absolutely correctly. Yeah, Russia seems to be the devil, the arch enemy. We make resolutions that we just yesterday we decided to cut entirely any gas supplies from Russia forever. This will never. Regardless what happens in Russia, regardless of what happens in Ukraine, we will never have to do with Russia again, which is completely crazy. This is a country, as I said. There have traditionally, historically been ties, and it's completely crazy. To declare a country sort of the hereditary enemy. That was between Germany and France in the past, and luckily that was the founding motive of the European Union to overcome
for peace.
Absolutely, to overcome the hostilities between Germany and France.
And now the
I guess in the long run,
this advocate for
hereditary enemies. It's incredible. This is really.
I think we see the realities, like we see the above picture, and we say it's better for us to normalize the relationship, because it's going to hurt us over the long run as Europeans, the economy, everything, our allies and all this stuff.
Absolutely.
Anyways, this is kind of our opinion. I think just to summarize what you said, and also maybe we can use this as a clickbait for the intro. So you basically say that United States came and did a mineral deal with Ukraine. They are going to get their money back.
Mm-hmm.
They see this as a business to make money from the war in Ukraine and Russia. And we Europeans get nothing. We are going to rebuild Ukraine without getting nothing. And you think
that's the monetary thing. I think we should maybe rather put it this way. The US under Trump, they very bluntly pursue their interest, and it's mostly a monetary interest. And what we should, and it ends up with us just paying for something which we don't even control. And I would say, we should be aware what is our interest in this matter.
Game.
And we're not exactly. And our interest is we're not deal makers like Trump. We don't want to make profits, with the war in Ukraine. But our interest is, of course, to stop this money train, to stop also, the bleeding and destruction in this war, and take responsibility for peace in Europe. And if the US basically step out of this process and just look at their monetary, at their business interests, then we should take responsibility, pursue our interests, and our interest is peace, and is in the long run overcoming this hostilities. With Russia. To overcome the hatred and this very difficult relationship. This is our interest.
Yes, I believe so as well. Any closing remarks? I think we hit all the topics. Anything that we did, all the angles in the topic. Anything that you think we need to add?
Well, as I said, it's pursuing interests, your national or your European interest. There's nothing wrong with it, but we need to be aware of it. And clearly, our interest is to stop this war.
Okay, I will ask you. I ask every person in the end of the podcast. You are going to die in 30 seconds. What do you want your last words in this planet to be if you actually die in 30 seconds?
I die in 30 seconds. Well, I would say overall, it was a good life.
Overall, it was a good life. Okay. Thank you guys for watching until the end.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.